College's annual scholarship recognition ceremony. This is one of the most enjoyable things that we do all year long, to recognize the generous contributions of our benefactors and the students who are receiving almost $100,000 worth of scholarships. I'm Edward A. Franklin, Jr. I'm a member of the Development Foundation. The Development Foundation's role is to support, primarily financially, but to support and promote Corning Community College. The administration of the scholarships is one avenue, and if you look out this beautiful view out here to see the stacking of cinder blocks, another major avenue of support for the college with our residence halls being built. It is my pleasure now to introduce our president, Dr. Kathleen Douglas.
Thank you, Sandy, and welcome one and all to truly one of our favorite times at Corning Community College, where we bring together the generous donors and the student recipients who have the opportunity to meet, understand why it was important for the donor to found these scholarships and why these students have earned them. We hope that you've had the opportunity to get to know one another a little bit over lunch. What I want to do is just take a moment to underscore how important the scholarships are, how important your generosity, our various donors. It's so very important. I hope you've heard that from our students. Our students, it's important for you to recognize how critically important our donors understand your education to be. I think about a quote. It is from a 17th century poet and politician. Isn't that an interesting combination? Poet and politician. John Addison, a British poet and politician, who said, "What sculpture is to marble, education is to the soul." We believe very strongly that the role of education in shaping lives transforms them. We know over 55 years of Corning Community College history we have done that. Many of you have a much longer history with Corning Community College than I do. We have so many, many alumni and generous donors who have a long history. We're so thrilled that you take the time to be with us today, to be with your student recipient, and more importantly, to share through your generosity a future that is strengthening an individual life, making a difference in our community, and making a difference in our society. Thank you so very much for all that you do. Congratulations to all our student recipients. I would like to invite all of the recipients to please stand at this time. I know, one more time. I'm going to ask you to stand and be recognized. Congratulations, one and all. Our donors believe in you, we believe in you, we are delighted to have you here, and we look forward to your time here on campus and long thereafter. Please have a seat. What I'd like to do is introduce on a more individual level just a few of the students who have received these various awards, because they are an example of some of the individuals that just stood up. So if I could ask for the student testimonial video to start.
I received the Alumni Family Scholarship.
I received the Kelly Oakley Endowment for Women Scholarship.
I was awarded the Michael Regal 87 Scholarship.
The scholarship that I received from Corning Community College is the Nursing 3 Scholarship.
I received the Dan S. Hoover Scholarship.
I received the Helen and Waldo Longwell Scholarship.
Life kind of happens and you have kids and it's hard to find the time and the money to go back to school. So and the other thing is my mom passed away, and I think that kind of, it's like you get it's now or never. You have to kind of embrace life. So it's something I always wanted to be, was an RN. So I took the plunge, came back to school.
I had been working for a company for quite a while that ended up shifting their business overseas. And when that happened, the job market for me was very weak in this area. So I had an ability to go to school and learn a new trade, and Corning Community College was a perfect fit for me.
I'm actually the first person in my household to attend college and graduate high school.
I chose Corning Community College because it's close to home, the tuition rate is low, and they offered all of the prerequisites that I needed to fulfill my bachelor's program.
I chose Corning Community College mostly because of the financial aspect. Also, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet because I'm still undecided, and it just made a lot more sense to come here than go out to a four-year school and still be a little lost.
Size of the classrooms, the working with the advisors, and really getting a good plan, not just for one semester to the next, but for my entire 2 years here was, I think, key to me above anywhere else that I could have gone to go to school at. It's local, it's nearby, it's very friendly, and I just love the campus. I love the environment here.
I decided to come to college when my daughter was 1. I reached the point where living paycheck to paycheck was no longer okay. I want to be able to provide her things that she wants, not just the things that she needs. I want to be able to give her as much as I can, and the position that I had at the time was not going to do that. And the only way I could get a better position was to further my education. So for me, Corning was the best choice. It's local, it's close, I could commute, my schedule is flexible.
More convenient. I'm coming from a big city. It's pretty loud. I've lived there for like 11 years, so it's loud. I guess I just wanted to get away from all the hustle and bustle. Come to CCC because it's a lot quieter, it's a lot bigger. The ratio, the staff to student ratio is a lot smaller, so I know I can get that one-on-one attention.
Well, I have to tell you that I did a lot of research first before I looked at Mansfield because I live in Pennsylvania, and I looked at like Keuka, and there's Elmira, and Corning Community College, well, I think it's just the best fit for me.
I chose to come here because it was close to home. At 18 years old, for me, I didn't want to leave home. I think it would be really scary. I don't think I'm prepared for it. And I mean, the main reason is money. It's very realistic here. It's affordable. I didn't want to have student loans my whole entire life, so I figured here was a great start.
I chose Corning Community College because it is local. I live in Southport, so it's not a terrible commute for me. I can get here and go home on days that only have one class. It's not terrible that I have to drive 2 hours to a campus. My mother came here, and I've heard wonderful things about the faculty and the staff and how wonderfully willing they are to help you and to figure things out, and I've experienced that. So it was just an easy choice. It was cost effective. It gave me what I needed.
So far, my future plans are transfer out after my 2 years here at CCC, probably do a SUNY school to pursue medical field or psychology, probably one of those two. When I graduate, I plan on transferring into a four-year school.
After this spring, I will be attending Penn Tech in Williamsport, and I start that program in the fall. I'm starting their physician assistant program.
I plan on working full-time and then working part-time on my BSN, and then hopefully I plan to roll into my MSN.
When I'm finished with Penn Tech and I have received my license, I plan on establishing in a practice in this area. So I live in this area and I don't plan on leaving, so I want to stay working in the area to help the community, and in order to do that, I plan on volunteering after hours at a free clinic to help patients who are in need.
I know I am going to attend the next school after this for a full year for my bachelor's, and I know that I'm going to graduate here with an associate's.
So I plan to participate in either the Doctors Without Borders program or the Mercy Ships program to help people in need.
My plan when I finish here and graduate in May is I'd like to look at what other opportunities are out there for me to move on to a four-year school, but I think I'm going to have to enter the workforce for a little while, and I feel that I'm going to be really set up for success because, again, the programs here, especially with computer science, are set up in the way that I can learn different aspects and really kind of plug and play anywhere I go.
My goal is to get a career as a chem tech or a process tech with Corning Incorporated.
I was very excited when I got the letter in the mail for the scholarship. I didn't really think anything of it when I sent in the application. So when I received the award in the mail, I was very excited to see that they had given me one.
I was elated. I'd been waiting for that letter for weeks, and I think I was in touch with the office every single day over the summer saying, hey, when scholarship announcements coming, because it was so important to me to win a scholarship, and when I was finally awarded one, it was just a huge relief off of my shoulders. It means the world, and I can't say that enough, to have that scholarship money to be able to help me continue my education.
Well, the way I found out was I was at work and my mom called me crying, and she left me a voicemail, and I was thinking, oh my God, like someone's dying, someone's in an accident. I was terrified because she knew I was at work, so why would she be calling me crying? And when I called her back, she was like, you got the $5,000 scholarship, the same one your brother got. And I was like, oh. So after I calmed down from thinking something was wrong, then I had to get excited. I was like, oh my gosh, that's great.
When I got the letter that I got the scholarship, I was very excited. I was very proud of myself that I was able to project myself in a way that somebody was willing to help me out.
Well, my dad found it actually, and he was like, oh, I went to CCC. You can apply for this and maybe you'll get it. And I was like, oh, probably not. But I did. And that's always nice. Helps pay for books, which are more expensive than I realized.
It means a lot to receive a scholarship because you feel like you're being patted on the back for a good job.
It's a great honor. It's always nice to be picked out of a large group of people to win something. Makes you feel special.
You know, it is an academic award, so you kind of feel like when you work really hard and you're getting rewarded for working hard.
It meant the world to me to get this big of a scholarship because I wasn't expecting such a big scholarship, and it meant a lot of financial relief. It made me proud, and it was nice because I didn't receive any financial aid, so the scholarship was all I had, so it was really nice.
It meant that I would be able to pay for my books. The scholarship helped a lot with the cost of my books.
I have 2 kids. I have a husband that works, and I don't work. So it's cool to have the money. It helps. I live in Pennsylvania, so I drive, and it offsets some costs. So I'm very thankful to be awarded.
I work 2 jobs, basketball and school, so I needed some form of load because work is extremely stressful and school, and add basketball to that. So I needed a form of getting extra fundings without having to worry about all the other expenses. So now with this scholarship, what it does for me, it helps me take less hours from work, and it helps me focus more on school and basketball.
For me, it meant a few less hours that I can work, a little more time I can spend at home with my family, or doing homework or studying, just that little bit less that I can be somewhere else that I can spend focusing on what's a little more important.
Well, it means an awful lot to me. We receive financial aid to cover things like tuition and help with book costs, but when it comes to cost of living, that's much more difficult. I'm not a traditional student who lives with my parents or has that ability and that luxury to live at home, so having a stable support structure is very important to me, and this scholarship is going to allow me to have reliable transportation and be able to keep a roof over my head as well as my sanity from trying to have to work a full-time job while I'm going to school.
It made me feel proud, and it made me feel hopeful that someday I would be able to be in a position to help somebody. Because of the help that I've been able to receive, I can better myself and be able to help someone else in the same position that I'm in.
I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the scholarship. It helps me very much. Thank you.
I am very thankful, and so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Without your generous support, there'd be many people that wouldn't be able to attend college.
As I have learned so many times in my 35-year community college career, our students say it best, don't they? We are in the business of access to higher education and success in higher education. And this is a day that underscores how important it is that your generosity, thank you donors, in terms of that student success, in their own words, taking some of that pressure off allows them to focus on their academics, which means a much greater likelihood that all the young people in this room are going to complete and succeed in their academic goals. And you, students, you've met the muster. You've been up the par that our donors have set. And speaking of our donors, I'd like to invite just a few of them up to the podium to speak. And I'd first like to invite Kathleen Hoover Speicher up to speak about the scholarship that's founded in our hands.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet Jerome Jones, who we saw in our video, who is our first recipient of the Daniel S. Hoover Scholarship. This scholarship was established in honor and in memory of my father, Daniel S. Hoover, who passed away in January of this year. He began teaching at CCC in 1967, when the reality of our wonderful institution was a mere vision in the making. My father truly believed that a quality education should be available and accessible to anyone wishing to improve their lives. Bernie Danforth, who many of you know, commented to me once that my father relished every opportunity to make mathematics accessible to any and all students. My father died when he was 72 years old. He taught here full-time for 32 years and continued part-time for several years after. So I was thinking about this last night, that he taught here for over 35 years. So he spent half of his life dedicating himself to improving the lives of students and in turn improving the community in which we live. When my dad died, we received hundreds and hundreds of cards in the mail. Many were from, well, most were from people that we knew, but many of them were from people that we didn't know. Those cards were from students. Students who felt the need to share their stories with my family and how my dad positively influenced their lives. What a wonderful opportunity we have here today and at CCC to continue his legacy by making a positive impact for students like Jerome. I am so proud to say that my dad believed in CCC. He believed in the success that people find here. He was truly the embodiment of the statement that students are the focus of all we do. I appreciate many of those in this room because many of you actually donated to the scholarship in this fund. And in turn, we have been able to help my father continue to give to the students and this college that he loved so dearly. So I want to congratulate Jerome personally in helping keep my father's memory alive. He would be so proud of you and your story.
Thank you, Kathleen. And would like to invite Michael Robo up to the podium to share a little bit about his family scholarship.
Thank you, President. So, my dad, Jim Rocco, very funny, very smart. If you took him to a party against his will, he'd have a really good time, you'd like him, and he'd be the last to leave. It was a running joke in my family that none of us ever saw, not even my mother, my father's office. My father was in the, at the time we called it the black box. It was probably 15 or 20 stories high. It was on the north side of Corning. But none of us had ever seen it. So there developed this sort of mystique about it, that it was somehow interesting, not that it was. But we relied on other people who my dad worked with to really tell us, what does our dad's office look like? And they used to say the same thing, your father's office is sterile. There are no books in the bookshelf. There's nothing on the tables. And the walls are whiter than you wouldn't believe. I mean, they're so white, your father's office looks like an airport runway. night. Then came me. It was 1987, and I had just graduated from Corning Community College, and I transferred to Ohio State. And I had just finished my first semester, my first quarter at Ohio State, and I had just finished my exams, and I came home and I became a couch potato. And not to miss a beat, my father said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Dad, I just got home. I'm home for 5 days. Get a job," he says. "Dad, I'm home for 10 days. Who's going to hire me?" He said, "Tempforce, the temporary employment agency will hire you. Go." So I went, and the first thing people wanted to know at the Tempforce agency was, "What can you do?" And of course, I didn't want to work. So I told them, "I'm a liberal arts major, and the only thing I know how to do is clean and organize." And they said, "Perfect, we have just the job for you." So this temporary employment agency, which I would to this day like to burn down, told me, "We have just the job for you," and they could have sent me to any place in Corning, Elmira, or anywhere else in this area. They sent me to my father's office. I was not the first one in my family to go away to school, but I was the first one in my family to see my father's office. And that should have gotten me an honorary doctorate. And when I got there, I'll never forget his face. He was, the color just drained, and he became really white, whiter than anybody in New York State, which is an accomplishment in itself. And I thought he would freak when I was there, but he was very clever about it. He showed me his office from afar. I was not allowed to clean it or even breathe on it. And he very cleverly took me around to all of his office mates and showed me their offices and sort of bragged about me and said, "This is my son," where it was a very clever ruse. What he was really doing is, "This is my son who's going to clean your office." So, let me leave you with a real snapshot of my dad. He was sharp and witty and quick, which I loved about him. He was from Michigan, and he went to Michigan State in Lansing, and my dad studied economics and math, and he paid his own tuition by working full-time at the Michigan State Capitol building in downtown Lansing as an elevator operator. And he once told me the story, which I have to repeat because he was very proud of it, about how, this was the 1950s, so the elevators were those very old kind where you had to sort of slip the lever and you had to open it manually and you had to make absolutely sure that the elevator was on the same floor as the floor that people got off on. So he once told me how he was able to slip the elevator lever just so. Apparently, when the elevator stops, suddenly you have this little sensation of, it gives the rider sort of an interesting experience, more like a near-death experience. And obviously my father was very bored with his job because this was the way he entertained himself. And apparently word got around that my father had developed this new skill. And he was very proud of it. There were a lot of public officials that went into the Michigan State Capitol, the governor, the senators. And so somehow one of the senators caught wind of the fact that my father had this skill. And clearly the senator, bored with his own job, wanted to ride with my father to experience whatever it is that he would experience. So my father slipped the elevator for the senator, and this was a real joy for the senator, but the senator also lost his lunch. So this was my dad's contribution to Michigan's 1955 political landscape, causing a prominent politician to lose his lunch. So Dad, on a more serious note, Dad was an athlete and a churchgoer. He taught me math, which is why I never majored in it. He taught me how to ride a bike and other things that good dads do. And to generations of younger relatives, he always had time for kids. And he knew how to make them think and feel loved. My dad taught me the value of integrity and a good moral compass. And like many of you, much of what is good in me came from him. To the winners of my father's scholarship, to Matthew Kelly and Lindsay Roblier, many of your good qualities, and there are many, remind me of my dad. My mother could not be with us today, but she does send her regards. I'd also like to thank Tony Case, my partner, for making the trip from New York City with me. Finally, thank you, President Douglas, for supporting our alumni, for doing an amazing job at it, and for completing your first year here at Corning Community. And as importantly, the institutional advancement team for holding this very, very wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And our third and final speaker from the donor perspective, I'd like to invite former Corning Community College Dean of Students, Don Beck, to the podium. Here you are, Don.
I met President Douglas earlier today. I said I'd be the oldest person in the room, and I am. But that also lets me tell you a story that many of you wouldn't remember. I had quite a flashback as I drove up Chemung Street, past 5th, corner of 5th and Chemung, and looked at that brick building on the right. And I said, you know, 50 years ago, almost to the week, I sat in a room in that building to award our scholarships that numbered 6 or 7. Now that's a stark contrast with today, and I think it's just one yardstick to show the growth of this college. It's just a wonderful thing. Wonderful to be back here. Just listening to the conversations, you know, there's pride all over this room. Pride in the student accomplishments. Pride in the families of the students. Pride in the community who have supported all of you and for the college. What may not be as evident is the pride that the donors have. It's a privilege to be a part of a sponsorship of a student scholarship. When I think of our family, had very little money, but the important thing was to learn, the important thing was education for all of us. Jeremiah and Margaret Reagan, my grandfather and my grandmother, and I lived with them. My grandmother raised me right here in Corning. We now are a family of, I think, 160 plus. 3 generations later, there's no question that the legacy of education that was brought through us, to us and through our family was so important. As we began talking about something we could do to remember our family, there was no question it had to revolve around education. Very few, in fact none of us, because it wasn't a Corning Community College when people of my generation were growing up. We felt that Corning Community College would be an excellent place to administer the scholarship because it was the home of our family. Almost all of the Reagan family have left and moved into other communities. But we decided at Corning because what's obvious, it's increasing contribution, service to this community. is really the same community that provided schools for me, for all of our family, provided all of the services and the jobs, which made it possible for us even to go on to college. So it's really a tribute to our family, and it's a little bit of a stake and an investment in the future for us to be able to sponsor this scholarship. And today meeting Tyler Vanderhoff and his mom, Betty, who also is a graduate of Corning. It makes me very proud that we have a chance to not only support a person, but to see the kind of a person that is going to be coming to Corning Community College. So my final thoughts would be for you, Tyler, for each of the scholarship winners today. Use your time at Corning Community College as a meaningful step in your lifelong pursuit of continuing education, which will enrich you, but also be expected of you. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our formal program. We have heard feedback that what is the most meaningful part of this ceremony is the opportunity for the donors, and you've heard from 3, but there are so many, many in the room that we have to thank. The opportunity for the donors to interact with their recipients of their scholarships are what's most important. We hope that the time that you've had over lunch have allowed you to get to know the person that this scholarship was founded for, so many wonderful memories, so many strong commitments to education, so many variations on that theme. And that the donors have had the opportunity to meet the future, to meet the recipients of their awards and the difference that those young people will make here in the Southern Tier. So thank you for that. The other thing that we heard was that people would like this to be a little bit shorter than it's been in the past. So we think we've worked on that as well. And for closing remarks, I'd like to invite Dr. Franklin, representing the Corning Community College Development Foundation.
Well, we certainly see why we enjoy doing this on this beautiful day on top of Spencer Hill. After all days up here are beautiful, right guys? If you haven't had your pictures taken, please make sure that you kind of, as the British would say, queue up over next to the photographer for your photos. I vividly remember the very first time President Douglas spoke to us as a faculty and as a college community, where she outlined her concept of the gold standard. That is, making Corning Community College the #1 community college in the United States. Well, quite frankly, as we look around at our college community here, the gold standard has been accomplished. And what we need to do is to let the rest of the nation know that Corning Community College is the #1 college in the United States. Thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the rest of your day and mingle and talk. Thank you.